And we can make this a shorter episode.
Yeah,
it's not bad. Like, you know, we can kind of just hit it. We got Nancy's.
Dang, you want
The hungry little monkeys over there. Always
45 minutes? They want to do a 45er. Okay.
Always concerned with.
All right.
Man, well, let me say, well, number one, you're going to get to your lunch. We'll get it. Nancy just told us make it short because there's a staff lunch today.
Yep.
And it's our favorite taco guy. So
snap. That's
what is
fire.
it today? What? Nathan's the executive pastor here, so I don't, we're
Something good.
We're supposed to be appreciating you guys? On the, okay.
Okay.
All right. Well,
we want to appreciate the staff right now. We just want to say thank you.
And they want lunch.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah.
For getting paid to do what you do.
yeah. Nancy's Allison. It's a good Gen Z take right there. She said, "Thanks for feeding us, for appreciating us getting paid to do what we're supposed to do."
Wait, did we tell them that it's they have to pay for the lunch? It's staff appreciation, but it's like it comes out their paycheck.
Anyone who has
yeah.
Anyone who has a beyond commitment card submitted, they get one. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Beyond the Letter. Sometimes I got to pause and think, which podcast is this? Because today's drop was you and your wife.
That was fun.
She killed it.
Yeah.
I've done this. I know, well, we haven't really talked about it because we live busy lives.
For sure.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. We like hang out more at the table sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just because it's crazy.
We're all running different opposite schedules.
Yeah.
Sammy's still involved in 100 things outside, our local church as well. So we just busy. I'll be like, come out, and be like, bro, what's up? What's new? I haven't seen you in a week.
That's true.
Even though, we're like 20 feet away from desks.
Yep.
That's the reality of the life. But Chandler killed it.
Yeah.
On the podcast. We're gonna be running back a part 2.
Man, she's pumped. We're honored that you had us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But she's like, this style, we're just used to. You just talk and you roll. She wants to prepare, but I'm like, don't worry, don't prepare.
She wasn't natural.
Yeah. She's like, once she takes that stress off, I know that Nathan gets like that too. He was saying like he wants to prepare, but I enjoy it where you're just like, hey, let's talk and go there. But it was fun. It was fun to be on with the Beyond I Do guys too.
Yeah,
that's like a
it's
fun
a different feel.
It's a different feel, but it's really fun.
Yeah. And those are much shorter. Hopefully today we'll do a relatively shorter episode too.
Yeah.
But it's a shorter-ish episode.
Yeah.
45 minutes normally.
Yep.
I think your guys went a hair longer, an hour, which is great because then conversation
for sure
is flowing well. So I've done weekly for 2.5 years of podcast.
Crazy.
It's crazy how much it flies by. Over a year on Beyond I Do. So for over a year, 2 episodes a week. Sometimes we're doing multiple episodes a week too to fill in. But so I just say that to say I'm doing podcasting a lot, and wifey killed it, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
We always have people on, and some people it's more natural, less natural.
For sure.
She's a natural.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. We'll have to pick your brain, especially because I mean that space. I think she, especially in the mental health space, and then who she is in the church space, all that. Like I think it would be, it'd be really great to
for sure
to be thinking through. And I think, I know we have some things we're going to talk about queue up, but it would be fun to hear from you too. I know we've talked about this before, but just like the consistency of like hosting it, like creating a space. Yeah. Again, this is just for you, and we don't have to take forever on it, but how do you create a space? Like you said, you've been doing both these podcasts for how long now? 2.5 years. So how do you create a space that it's like, because some people try and create space and it's awkward. You ever see some podcast it's just really awkward? But like
I've been on podcasts that are awkward.
So
They're like, they want your bio.
Yeah.
I've gotten podcasts where they say, tell me what's interesting about you and I'll talk about it.
And that's weird. And you're like, what? And then that's a weird thing. But like, how do you like create it? Like, especially for people I know a lot of people are interested in doing this space. Yeah. How do you create? Is it just your DNA, your makeup, like all this different stuff? Like, what do you create to just make it more natural? Because there's definitely some like sauce on it on both these pods. I'd have to say, some things, there's tiers to it. And some of the stuff we have, back in I think when we did our 2-year anniversary one, I think it was you, Julian. Yep. Was it Will? We did that episode. Yep. And then it turned out just to be an episode of just like help people start a podcast. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was. Yeah. Or was that with Jeff?
Was it Jeff? Was it you, Jeff,
and Will?
Will, maybe.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay.
So we talked about that.
So we just talked about how. So on that level, if anyone wants to go back, back to October of
and I think
2024, that
you hit a bunch of stuff, but that was a lot of even practical stuff of creating space. All that
you
stuff.
Want to create, but. Not saying that I in that podcast I didn't answer what you just said.
Exactly. Yeah,
but I think it would help people if they just said, "Hey, I want to do a podcast." I think there's some elements to it that are, number one, I've just had longer years at this than others. I've produced podcasts for dozens of people. I've produced podcasts for Christians, non-Christians. I had a company, a media company, and so. I have a guy that I produce for that's in the top 50 of religion. He's not religious. He's a spiritualist. He wasn't a spiritualist at the time. And so I definitely wouldn't have worked with a spiritualist back then. But he's become one.
Yeah.
He's very famous now. But I basically launched his brand, which first was under his name. Now it's something else. Yeah. So I have a lot of years of experience when it comes just to knowing the art of podcasting.
Right.
That I know. Like I can not that I'm perfect, but I can listen to someone's podcast if they have one.
Yep.
And if you want me to absolutely deconstruct it in every way, I could do that.
For sure.
And I can make suggestions on how to make it better right away and things like that. And I've helped friends who have desired to have podcasts like Aaron and others. And this is what's important. And some can do it.
Yeah.
And some can't because of finances, because a certain level does take a financial investment.
Yeah.
If you want to do it absolutely great, it does take finances. The second level is, I think the nature that we do is you have to be a thinker.
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't think critically about life, not criticism, but critically.
For sure.
Like, if you're not critically thinking, like I'm the type that's like, I'll go to a football game and I'll be like, why is everyone cheering for people they don't know?
Right.
Like,
you have a question in it, not in a bad way where you're thinking negatively. Yeah. You just want to know why is the status quo the status quo?
Yeah. Like, this football stadium is packed out.
Yep.
Like,
spending
I understand
a ton of money on people you don't know. Why are you doing that? Yeah, for sure.
One of my best friends spends, $60,000 a year for tickets at the Ram Stadium. Yeah. And we talked about it before. Yeah. And he says, man, it's my escape. It's for sure. I take clients there, but I also work is hard. And when I go to church, I'm engaged to want to be a better person and learn. He's like, football's the only thing I could do that I just feel like I could turn my brain off and just, so it'd be equivalent to someone else who plays video games or goes shopping. Yep. And so for me, I ask those questions. I sit there and I'm like, why are we
doing this? Yeah.
And then, so like I sit on the board of University, Life Pacific, which is where your wife goes.
Yep.
Well, right now, it's a Christian university that started as a Bible school. Mm-hmm. And our highest enrollment is mental health and psychology.
Yeah.
It's outpaced Bible at the university. So more people are enrolled in psychology or marriage and family therapy than they are to go into ministry. Some people just go like, oh, okay. I sit there and I go, why?
Yeah, for sure.
What about 2025?
Yeah, what is trending, in that space to enable people to move from a Bible degree to a mental health? Yeah, for sure.
Why, as a Christian, would you say, I want to go more into mental health than I do in the local church? What I'm saying, I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying, like, that's where my mind is thinking.
For sure.
And then sometimes I'll go and read and research. Yep. Other times it'll just be a thought and I'll let it go, or, like, hey, this stock has raised. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, for sure.
Why did a microchip, why is NVIDIA like the most valuable stock that you could have owned in the past 5 years?
Yeah.
Well, gaming has become big. Everything's controlled. So like you kind of, if you want to do it, number one, I think you have to be a thinker. Yep. I think critically about things.
Yep.
And then number two, with it, you have to be curious.
So, and almost like, I feel like you got to be a thinker, like you're saying, critical mindset. You got to be curious, and you almost got to be a little bit of a challenger, right? Mm-hmm. Challenging, not in a negative way, but like challenging why are we doing this? And really digging into sharing your thoughts. And then I think the other thing that I would say, again, being on here longer, especially jumping into the team, and then when I wasn't on the team, I would jump on here and there, is you got to have some level of vulnerability.
For sure.
Like if you're not vulnerable and even challenging, like even something I told Chandler, as I said, these long talk podcasts are, it's just us to process our thought and be okay that like, hey, actually, when I said that, I changed my mind. And it's okay to have a place to be able to change your mindset. But we're inviting people into a group thinking, even like a video we're going to watch, right?
Yeah.
We're going to look at it and it's going to be our first time seeing it. And then we're going to be like, kind of process together.
Yeah,
and so really being, I feel like, because we speak on the platform, you lead Patriot Church, and then I'm on the residency team, Get Ready to Church Plant. From a platform, we're really digging in because there's that level of accountability. Not that there's not integrity here, there is integrity, but this is a place to conversate and talk as opposed to with the platform. You're really...
Yeah, in a platform, people are looking to be led.
Exactly.
And not by our authority as traditional, pastors and Bible teachers, authority of the Word of God.
Yep.
But yeah, we want to be able to... We're not saying we're all knowing. We know that God is. We know His Word is. But we are trying to guide people.
Exactly. And we've studied. We've done 10, 20, 30 hours, however long it is.
Yeah.
With this, it's our life, because I've been 18, almost 19 years full-time ministry.
Yeah.
You've had all the background that you just talked about from launching podcasts, creative agency, ministry experience, Bible college, now leading as a senior leader. Again, I get to say like very unique leader that I've ever been around. I've been able to be around a ton of people of what you're able to put your hands to. Yeah. So that's why I'm like interested because like we hit on the practical side of podcasts.
Yeah, you want to start one, do it like this, make the quality like this or whatever.
And so those are super important. But I think what's even the intangible is like having someone like your makeup, which you're unique. Again, you kind of open the mind of, Adam and who he is, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think that's super important to be able to create that space to be able to think, to have something that is successful. And you might be that way and it just doesn't take off. And
For sure.
But I think another thing you did was you were consistent 2.5 years. And still going. We
committed to that. We made a 3-year commitment originally,
which is crazy. I mean, with the amount of stuff
we said, even if there's 50 listeners, we commit for 3 years.
With the amount of stuff you're doing, right? You just traveled in from traveling, and you've been traveling nonstop, and then you're going to travel again
next week.
We're always trying to at least get like a little golf game or something. But you're I'm gone.
We're trying now.
So I just think that like your consistency in making space for that is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what encourages the two things that encourage me the most, and not in a prideful sense, but in a way that like reassures me that I think could be encouraging for other people if they desire. Now, again, there's all types of different types of podcasts, right? There's story form podcasts, there's murder mystery podcasts, but if you want to do more of like a lifestyle or like critical thinking podcast, which would be Joe Rogan-esque world of type of podcasting, is like the two things that for me always feels like a great compliment is, number one, I think Alizé recently shared one, and this is a paraphrase. Basically, a friend put them onto our podcast, and the friend responded, DM'd them back and said, hey, I've watched a few episodes. Is it strange that I feel like I'm family?
So cool.
They said something like that, right?
Yeah, your wife, Ashley shared it.
Okay, I guess it was my wife. I don't know how to read it in the Slack channel, So I guess someone DM'd my wife, and they've been sharing it with their friend. They say, hey, is it weird that I feel like family with these people? And they don't know who we are. And so I think that, like you talked about, that realness, the rawness, like we're so imperfect. And I think people, when leave comments, sometimes they think like, I'm going to care or that I feel like I have to
kind of
explain myself or something. And I'm like, I'm so imperfect. Probably didn't say this the right way. Totally. If I said it again, I'd probably say it, but you're also getting my raw thoughts. Even you right now, now, you were like, hey, can we see that video ahead of time? And then even Andy, he cut it off. He's like, no, I'm not showing you the whole thing. Like,
I did.
I want your raw thoughts.
I did.
He knows that we've learned like, that's the best way to do it.
Good.
It's not, there are better ways, which would be plan your thoughts, watch a video. If you're trying to platform, educate people. If we said, hey, we're going to do a podcast on education. Then we should watch things ahead of time, have principle, have principle thinking, and which we could do that really easily. Bible Club in the future, which we're launching.
Which is going to be fire.
Hopefully soon. Yeah. It's like, that's straight information. We want you to, it's going to be very black and white. It's going through a book at a time. That's pretty simple. So like that always encourages me when people listen to it. I always say the best compliment I've ever gotten was from a guy who said, I got my wife pregnant and married relatively young. I don't have college friends like so many people have. And I don't really have coworkers. And so he told me, you guys on the podcast are the best friends I've never had.
That's so cool.
And that's been fuel for me every time. So I love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Then the other aspect that I love specifically with Beyond the Letter, Beyond I Do are different things. Is that, I'll specifically for guys, because Beyond the Letter leans more towards men listening to. Beyond I Do listens to more women. But we're a very diverse podcast. We have mixed gender more than average podcast.
Right.
Especially in the way that we're doing it.
Yeah.
But the other compliment that's highly complimenting is that I'll get messages from guys that say, man, I listen to Beyond the Letter because I always learn to think differently. You guys have a deep well that you're drawing from that I feel it's not surface level. Like you're pulling up topics and thoughts and like references that's like I've never heard of, I've never thought of. And so that's always a good compliment to me because I try to learn as much as possible. I try to think as much as possible.
For sure.
I love just sitting and thinking and processing thought. And my degree was philosophy. Apologetics is a fancy way of saying philosophy.
100%.
So I think more like a philosopher than I do a pastor. And I think I am a philosopher with like a pastor's jacket on.
That's right.
And my form of philosophy is rooted in the Bible. Whereas like Plato's and Aristotle's is rooted in other types of thinking. So I think also like that bend for me is like being more philosophical. And philosophers are hard to tie down. So a lot of times people will like, just tell us what you think black and white. And I'm like, well,
it's not
philosophically, we don't think that way.
Can I talk about gray? You know what I mean? It's like they're mad.
Philosophers
100%.
love living in the gray.
100%.
Right? Not gray in scripture, but just the gray in other ideals and other processes.
That's how Jesus was too, right? They would always ask him questions. He would tell a parable. He would not answer. He would move away.
Ask another question. That's a philosophical way of doing things. That's
exactly how it's Jesus. It's very, like where a lot of people are talking like in a Eastern mindset, you know what I mean? Like they want that Eastern religion. Well, that's Christianity started in the East, So like that's where they're longing for is that philosophical thought. So I think that, and then I would say, just the artist in you too, to be able to have, you tie philosophy and art and then using like our love for Jesus and the scripture and like really being able to talk about that. To me, that's what is a big thing. But,
and I'll probably say the third thing too, which is probably the hardest for people. This is probably like anyone could go and learn how to put a podcast on. For sure. Anyone, if they're willing to be vulnerable, can create vulnerability to allow other people to partake in. Almost anyone, if as long as you do enough reading and you can, ingest it and articulate like you could get that. Here's the thirdest thing, which is probably the hardest for people, is can you talk to people that aren't like you?
100%.
Because like we may have friends on the table a lot or other people, but there is things that we like harshly disagree with on certain aspects, right? And like I even said that one of the episodes we did with you and Julian, and I was just like, hey, I struggle with all those like prophet guys.
Like when we talked about Holy Ghost and stuff.
And I was like, hey, I don't, but prophetic. I'm willing to be uncomfortable.
For sure.
I'm willing to ask questions. And I'm also willing to be honest to be like, hey, that person you just referenced, I kind of think they're a phony.
Totally.
Like, tell me if I'm right or wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Like, no, I think they're legit.
Which we were talking about the paying for like a prayer. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
We were like, that is weird, dude. I don't want to talk to Jesus about that. You stand in heaven, but that's the culture. But then it's okay for us to say, hey, we're not trying to be rude to someone, but we think that is strange, and then being able to talk about it, which I think is huge. And I think like you broke it down. We talked about the podcast where we talked about what thinker, curiosity, challenging, and talking to people that think differently. Those are great tips and tools, not just for a podcast, but for life.
Well, you can succeed at life if you're willing to not be right all the time.
Exactly.
I don't always have to make my point
and not to
come across.
I mean, you talked about it on Sunday when you preached here at Patria, where you said, how many of you guys have friends that are non-Christian? How many of you guys have friends that are Christian? And really about having we have to have both in our life.
Yeah.
We have to have our circle of close friends that, show me your 5 friends, I'll show you who you are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we should, if we're just around Christians, that's not our call. Our call is to be a light, right?
Yeah.
To be the salt and light of the earth. So we got to be around. So I think stuff like that is always good. And we always want, give me the formula. That's even my way. Like, what's the formula for it? And it's more of a dance than a formula. And it's really much more of a journey. Than that.
Yeah.
So.
And it's like, and then us being Christian, then you track, then you got to trickle in on top of that. So the umbrella is it your time? Is it your season?
For sure.
Can you handle it well? Yep. Like, cause this podcast is blown up in a lot of ways. Like I go into rooms, people know the podcast more than they know me or my church.
Right.
Like they don't even really know me. They're just like, oh, you're that guy I've seen on Instagram, blah, 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 and so it's done. It'd be very easy for ego to get really big.
Yeah.
For me to be like, which is like you guys said the recent episode I did, which was when I did a loan episode, and you guys were like, oh, it's great. One of the reasons why I enjoyed it, I wouldn't want to do it regularly, is because I don't want it to be about me.
Right.
That I didn't start out doing Beyond the Letter expecting this podcast would be about
solo.
me. So it's like I enjoyed it.
For sure.
But at what point? So part of that is like, for years, I've talked before, is like I tried to do a podcast. I was doing it for so many people.
Yeah, for sure.
I used to produce the King family, Martin Luther King Jr.'s whole family podcast. And obviously not him. His family and his organization. So it's like, man, I've done this for big names and big company. I've done it for Facebook executives. I've produced their show that goes on Facebook and stuff. So it's like, I'd always be like, can I do it? I want to do it.
For sure.
And I'd start, and then 2 weeks in, I'd have no peace.
Yeah, and then
I'd launch it, and a month later, and like no one would really be listening to it. And I think to myself, I got the recipe. I have the formula.
And you've done it for others.
I've done it for others.
And I think that's the big piece that you just talked about, is the timing piece.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's just a divine timing. But I would encourage, as people are listening, serving something else and really building something else and being okay. Hey, maybe you have a formula, but maybe you're not supposed to be the face of this thing. And even you just said that. You don't want to be, like, you'll do individual ones. You're great at that, creating it. But you don't want it to be about yourself. That even more shows the Lord will release favor on that, and on that heart posture. And then being able to start something and knowing also, if there's no, I call it sauce, right? If there's no anointing, if there's no sauce, if there's no heat on it, don't feel like you got to keep it going, but then you hit something and then we were consistent and it's taken off.
For sure. So. Yeah. God had to break my ego because I wanted to make an impact.
Yeah.
I wanted to reach as many people as possible. But the question was, if you would have asked 6-7 years ago, is why do you want to do that, Adam?
Yeah.
And I don't think my answer would have been a very godly answer.
Yeah.
I think it would have been because I feel like I'm gifted. I feel like I'm talented.
Yeah.
I feel like I have the juice.
Yeah, for sure.
But maybe I don't have the sauce. Maybe I don't have the anointing. What I did discover is I didn't have the anointing. I had God's gifts. I had His talents. I even had, His abilities that He's given me.
Sure.
But I also had ego. I had pride.
Yeah.
And so if God gave it to me too early without my pride being broken,
that's it.
Then I would have made it my whole personality.
100%.
I would have. When people tell me how much they love it, tell me more. Tell me how much you love it more.
It'll feed you.
It'll feed. Now I just go like, man, thank God.
You're encouraged by it, but you don't need it to stay alive. Or if you're not getting those words,
I'm not like, when was the last time someone?
It's not high and low, And I love how, people say this all the time where, your talent might get you in the room, but your character will keep you in the room. And you look biblically even at stories like Moses or even Paul. When Saul went to Paul, got saved, he was what was it, 14 years tent maker? What was it, like 13, 14 years?
Yeah.
Even though while he was still doing stuff, and then he went in. When Moses tried to take it into his own hands, 40 years as a shepherd, and then went back. Yep. And so I think that a lot of times we have the right word, right? Like God has called you to impact, people, even beyond all the stuff. You had the right word. It was the timing piece. And we always want to have the right. So like another example would be Abraham, right? As we're talking, he's going to have a kid, him and Sarah. And then they get frustrated on the timeline. Yeah. So then Sarah says something so crazy. Like what kind of wife would say, hey, we're not having a kid, sleep with, my maidservant, and then has a kid that way. And it was out of the timing of the Lord.
Yeah.
But God still was giving them a son. So I think a lot of times for us is like, don't stand just on your talent, because your talent we're seeing this all over right now, where people who are talented are falling
and they get access platform,
and then it's surface stuff,
but they make it about ego. It's the we're boys. 100%. Oh, let me send you to my assistant, and it's
like, what is that,
bro? We've gotten Chinese food together. Why all of a sudden I got to talk to your assistant? What's going on?
Yeah, this is strange. Remember this, right? You got to remember this. It's important to remember. Your ego is not your amigo. Your ego is not your amigo, right? Yeah. And I just think that really realizing that, crushing that ego as quickly as possible. And then I was going to see, maybe another time, maybe
we need a Beyond the Letter t-shirt that says that. Your ego is not your amigo.
We should.
Yeah.
But another thing I was thinking of is, I don't know if we could pull it up now. I know we have another video, but did you see the Timothée Chalamet?
Bro, you're a co-host today. Okay, cool. I don't know what's going on. Well, we got to give it to him. So let me.
So the Timothée Chalamet video, when he was up there winning the award,
Pursuit of Greatness, right?
Yes. Can we show that? Because I was thinking about that because I loved it. I'm a Kobe fan. I'm you know, that Mamba mentality. Like, I love.
Let me see.
That greatness speech. But
you want me to email it to you, Andy?
Yeah. But what's funny though is so many people were salty at like his pursuit of greatness. Now, they're stay humble, do all this stuff. And I get what they're saying, but it didn't feel to me. He was in pursuit to be one of the greats. So his thing, he wasn't saying like, this answers everything. He says, I'm on the right track. And so I want to see your thoughts with that, or want to hear.
Yes,
if you saw.
Obviously I've listened to it, and again, going back to Thinker, I've actually spent about 30 minutes thinking about this video.
Yeah, for sure. Me too.
Teetering, like, was what he did ego? Is it is it the Apostle Paul's framework that says, hey, I was chief among all Pharisees. I was the smartest. I was the most elevated. It's like, now he's saying that in a regress, but he's also never saying that's necessarily was a bad thing.
No,
it's just the perspective he was giving.
For sure.
And so, let's play it first before we go deeper into it. But for context, Timothée Chalamet, young actor who's in Dune and everything else, and
was it Bob Dylan? Bob Dylan for the Unknown or whatever?
He got Best Actor for Bob Dylan, which he had to basically character act. He had to become Bob Dylan,
which was crazy.
He did an incredible job doing that. And so basically, he won Best Actor. I mean, I forget who else was in the lineup. I think he names some of them in it, but hitters like Denzel Washington, all that stuff like that. And he wins it. And he has a to me, actually, if a 60-year-old said it, we would say, oh, that's wisdom.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the fact that it's a 27-year-old saying it that I think is what people have issue with.
We'll watch it, but a lot of times when people have that ambition, you feel it. It's almost like a stench. You can smell it. Yeah. You're like, he's not punching down at anyone. He is shouting out the greats, and he's saying, I want to be a great. And he's letting you know.
Inspired by people who do great things. And he's
so we're mad at people who give up on life,
are
and
lazy,
do nothing. But we're mad at people that have ambition in a good way, not like a godly ambition or like a true ambition to like, I want to be one of the greats. But he's not pushing people down. So like we'll watch it and keep talking about it.
I see he has it already.
Right. Thank you. I was not expecting this at all. Truly. I'll start by thanking my mother, who I'm here with tonight. She has been working at Actors Equity for 40 years, the stage union.
About his mama.
Yeah, shout out.
And I'll quickly run through this. I know the classiest thing would be to downplay the effort that went into this role and how much this means to me, but the truth is this was 5.5 years of my life. I poured everything I had into playing this incomparable artist, Mr. Bob Dylan, a true American hero, and it was the honor of a lifetime playing him. It's an honor I share with Monica, Elle, Edward, the entire cast, who in a genre doing a biopic that could be perhaps tired. Everyone gave it their all, so I'm deeply grateful to them. And lastly, I can't downplay the significance of this award because it means the most to me.
Yeah, this part right here.
And I know we're in a subjective business.
This is so good.
But the truth is, I'm really in pursuit of greatness. I know people don't usually talk like that, but I want to be one of the greats. I'm inspired by the greats. I'm inspired by the greats here tonight. I'm as inspired by Daniel Day-Lewis, Marlon Brando, and Viola Davis as I am by Michael Jordan and Michael Phelps, and I want to be up there. So I'm deeply grateful to that. This doesn't signify that, but it's a little more fuel. It's a little more ammo to keep going. Thank you so much.
Dude, that's GOAT talk right there. I love it. I love that because I relate to it. But what are your thoughts?
No, yeah. At first, I caught. Okay, this is why all the media outlets are playing it, because they it's a controversial statement, so they want people in the comments. They know it's gonna feel fire. People who agree, disagree, this and that. People who don't think he's all that great. He ain't even that good of an actor or whatever, and so it's gonna feed all that kind of stuff like that. Whether he was a good actor or not, that to me that's separate from what he says.
Well, that's stylistic too. Yeah. Some people think a certain person is great. Other people are like they're not great.
It's super subjective. Yeah. There's people who don't think Denzel Washington's a good actor.
Which they're off.
Yeah, you're crazy. Crazy. People who think Brad Pitt always needs a gimmick in his hand, eating food or whatever. Remove that, they're not a good actor or whatever. Everybody, it's very subjective in that sense, but. It's the desire for him, and to me, what kind of like sold me as like, man, this guy actually might be really humble. Yeah. And apart from faith and everything else, I don't know what his deal was with all that, but like just humility in the sense of like what a humble person could be is, to me, the caveat that almost goes, okay, go ahead, bro, is that last statement when he grabs the award. And he says, this award, now mind you, that award is Best Actor.
Voted by the actors.
By the Actors Guild, SAG.
So
by SAG. It's his peers.
Yeah, it's his peers voting for him. Yep.
Peers voting for him.
Yep.
And he grabs it and he says, this does not mean I've reached greatness. Yeah. It's just fuel to keep me going. Yeah. And I thought, that's humility.
For sure.
Because he could grab that and he could go, because in his head, he could view that as a championship ring.
Yep.
He could view that, I just got to collect. How many does Marlon Brando have? Marlon Brando has 10. This is my third one.
For sure.
I got 7 more and I'm great.
Yep.
He grabs it and he goes, hey, this don't make me great. It just means it's just fuel to continue to do it. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I was like, that's actually a really mature.
Agreed.
Way of like putting that, because he could have said a statement on Pursue Greatness. He could have grabbed the award and he goes, and so here we go, like whatever, right?
For sure.
But he didn't. He was like, just so I'm clear, me getting this award doesn't mean I'm great.
Yeah.
It's just giving me some fuel to keep going.
For sure.
I thought, man, that's and I forget what was the first thing I ever saw him in. I was just like, but he's a great actor.
He crushes it.
I was like, he's probably like the Brad Pitt of our day.
Oh yeah.
In that sense, right?
No, I think so too. I think I like that he didn't shy away from a tough statement. Like he even said, like it's like most people would downplay it, but like what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tell you my purpose and my desire. And I said it before we watched the video. I like that. He shouted out some of the greats, right?
Yeah.
He shouted out, Marlon Brando, Viola Davis.
That was big.
He was deep in his bag.
Yeah.
Michael Phelps, Michael Jordan went sports.
Yeah.
So I think we said it before, we're okay almost when people are more lazy and we're encouraging them, we want them out. But when people are fighting for greatness, there are moments where it's like you'll feel, I want to be great for myself. And he's just saying, I want to be one of the greats. Like in his mind, again, we don't know it. Yeah. But I took it as he wants to change the world in the way that he can do it. And he wants to be the best version of himself. And he wants to press forward. But in none of it was like he thanked his mom and the cast and everyone. And he talked about the hard work of what it was going to be. And it's like, I want to be able to make fighting for greatness. Like that's what we want to do. We want to impact the world. That's okay to be able to say your desire, as long as it's like you said, the award wasn't just for him to say like, hey, this is my 10th one, this is my 15th one. He was saying like, no, this is my peers telling me I'm on the right track and moving forward. So yeah. No,
I mean, I think it's just, I hope every person, whatever it is they're doing or whatever it is they hope to do, right? And so your stay-at-home mom, I hope there's a fervor that's like, you want to be the best stay-at-home mom, not an overworked stay-at-home mom. It's like, but I want to be the best version of this that I could be, which it could be, and there could be layers to that. And you could see who's his inspiration is, what he's trying to attain. But this, if you look in his case, it's like, this is a guy that in 2.5 years, 3 years, he's played Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
He's played Paul Atreides.
Yep.
And he's played Bob Dylan.
Crazy.
all hits in their own way, right? Bob Dylan being a super niche
and the
music,
range of characters pretty bananas.
Yeah, you're playing a messianic symbol in Dune.
Yep.
You're playing a chippery Willy Wonka, and then you're playing melodramatic, methodic artist, and learning how to sing as well, and learning the guitar.
An iconic artist. Like if you do that bad, like that, if you do bad acting on a legend like Bob Dylan, that could
your career's over.
Dude.
What a risk.
Exactly what I'm saying. And he didn't have to risk it. So being able to do that is like,
that's hard work.
Hard work. Yeah.
You don't just look at it and be like, oh, he's just a natural. And I've seen him, I'm pretty deep in the Timothée Chalamet lore. So I've seen him in his Dune, Paul Atreides, in his first movie.
Yep.
In his outfit, playing the guitar, playing Bob Dylan music,
right,
like learning
practicing it for sure.
And that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, like he says. So, he's pulling from this like, hey, I'm putting the work in, I'm practicing, I'm training. Even while I'm filming one movie, I'm working on another. I'm like, this kid, he made a joke in another interview. He said, they asked him, I think he was getting shoes or was he getting music? And he was like, yeah, I'll get that too. Dune did pretty good, and so it's like he's wealthy already.
Yeah, he's got he's got a bag.
Yeah, like he could be like any other young actor, and he's had enough movies that are just like bangers that he could be like, I'm just gonna kick back.
For sure.
I'm gonna goof off. I'm gonna go to parties. I'm gonna do this or that. But instead he goes, man, I'm gonna go for movie number 2, movie number 3. I want to be best actor back to back. I want an Oscar. I want this.
Yep.
And I don't think it comes out of an ego.
No.
I think it comes out of a pursuit of he wants to go down in history as being the best at what he does.
Yep.
He wants to leave a mark. Only time will tell. Is it at a place of pride?
Totally.
Is it at a place of ego? I don't think you can make that judgment right there.
Can't.
But I would hope that would inspire anyone to be like, oh, if I have a YouTube channel, I want to have the best YouTube channel.
For sure. Why are you putting out any of your work if you don't want it to be one of the best? That's my question.
Yeah.
And I think for him is we always want to critique, right? Anyone that's going first and pioneering, because I'm a pioneer and I relate to that. And he's pioneering in this place for all these areas of greatness. And so with someone who's on the forefront and loud, it's easy to critique, oh, you're 27, oh, you'll learn. Like that. Another funny video is Tiger Woods when he's early on. And he's talking to one of the I forget his name, but he's asking like he goes,
I know what you're talking about.
I've come to win, and the guy goes, you'll learn.
Yes. And he was like, no.
And,
what are you talking about?
It goes off, and he's like the greatest golfer of all time, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if
we might need to play
we
it.
might have to play that one. Man, we
because the interviewer gets interviewed a decade later and apologizes.
He apologizes, and there
because he treated Tiger like a dumb young kid.
And that's what happens is that there's young cats, right? And I say young, I'm still young. I'm 35, be 36 in next month, a few weeks. And we got to celebrate the greatness in these, teenagers, these 20-year-olds, into what they're going to be carrying.
See potential, speak life into them, help them understand what humility looks like.
And life will grow you, life will stretch you. But I think with like Chalamet, I'd much rather have a 27-year-old saying, I want to be one of the greats, than coming up there and be like,
cookies and ice cream and just
I'm crushing it, whatever. All right, let's just go, like you said, party. Let's go do all these things.
Well, I tried acting, but I didn't get as successful as I wanted, as fast as I did. So now I'm into music. Or then it's like,
so celebrate. I just think like it's just so funny. We love to pull down. Yeah. And I'm not saying that he's not arrogant or prideful. We all are. Can we be honest? We all have arrogance and pride and selfishness inside of us. And so I'd much rather have someone who's pushing for greatness, and life will course correct him. Mentors and voices will course correct. If he spent that much time in that range, he's smart enough to name not only legends, but have legends in his corner speaking in,
Yeah.
And so I just think like having that outlook on life of like, really championing and celebrating someone's life. Like one of my mentor who passed away a few years ago, I've talked about him a few different times, but he always just tells about like pulling out the diamond and the gold in people and not like shutting someone down, but fanning it into flame and walking with people. And so I think that's what's really important in life is that we see these people that are more outspoken. Not that someone who's not outspoken can't be this way, but that we're really championing these as opposed to trying to look for, in a critical sense, like in a negative sense. Oh, they're arrogant, they're prideful, they're all these things. No, we need to fan it. We need to fan it. So
yeah, did you get it, Andy?
This one is
He's loading it right now.
This one
and then I'm going to say something, and then I just emailed you a second video because now our original video that's in the future episode. So
yeah.
I've uploaded the video we were going to do. I think I've given it to Andy like 2 or 3 times.
Have you?
And we just never made it to it.
Well, I wasn't even thinking we're gonna. I wanted to get to the video, but
this is the nature of the podcast.
That's what it is.
This is what happens. You just follow your tangent of thought. It's like going to friend with your lunch with your. That's one thing I always tell people about podcasts. They're like, hey, if there's if there's like a hack or a trick that if I had it, I said, when you go to dinner with your friends, you don't create a list of topics and what to talk about and what you just say, I really enjoy time with them.
Yeah,
I want to get caught up on their life.
That's a great point.
I want to if you could just do a podcast and if you could do it well enough, if you have enough extrovert nature to you, you do a pretty good job. But it's also like you have to have interesting and be able to talk about interesting things. A lot of pastors they always tell me I'd be so scared to do what you do because I'd be scared that any little thing I'd say taken out of context or canceled or whatever. I'm like, yeah, you can't. That was Will Chung's biggest learning thing. He said a month after being on Beyond the Letter, God broke me of fear of cancellation. Yeah. Because he goes, you just can't go on that podcast and have fear that you're going to be canceled. And also we have respect and decency of people. So there are things we don't touch because we just, I know what they'll do. I know how it can be taken out of context. So there are things that we say, oh yeah, we don't really hit that or whatever. But 99% of everything's on
that
the
cancellation
table.
Wasn't a fear of mine. Was that fear? That was just like,
it was.
There's wisdom in it, right? Talking about the right topics.
But you also have to have boundaries. So we went into doing this show with boundaries, and and I've given this example many times. It's like when Caleb and I first started this podcast, my brother. 2.5 years ago, about our 3rd episode.
Yeah, you guys.
So we started right away with boundaries.
Those early ones, though, you guys would.
And we were finding our footing, right? And we still do them now, but with a certain level of decency and tact to it. Again, we were learning our footing. All that stuff like that, and so about our 3rd episode, we spent the whole episode on LGBTQ, which we talked about for 2.5 years. We'll touch on that if it's whether it's education or Target or something like, we'll talk about it. But it just like, we finished the episode and I looked at Caleb and I was like, that felt kind of gross. It
didn't feel good.
Felt like we were kind of punching down and we were kind of joking. Like, I feel like we were laughing and kind of making fun of, like, really almost as if we thought we were better than. Right. And, I was like, dude, that felt yucky. And he was like, no, I agree. And I was like, I don't think we should air it. And so there's about probably 3 episodes in the ether right now that have never been aired. The first episode has never been aired because it was bad. It was just terrible. And we did that. We had a list of things we wanted to do. We had a structure of videos, play this, play this, play this. Oh, let's move. The team was like 5 minutes per thing. It's like, so it was very, it was very rough. And, and then the second episode we never aired was us just feeling like bullies. And we were just like, that's not us. That's not what we want to build this platform off of. And then a third one, I think, was just, I don't know what it was, but there was another one in there. Maybe he and I were just arguing too much or something. And it kind of turned more into a brother talk that people would need a lot of context for. And it was like, let's not air that one.
For sure. Like, you just dropped another wisdom on someone is boundaries. Like we talked about the others, but create boundaries. And then I think another piece to it is have honor and respect for what you're talking about. And it doesn't mean we can't disagree. But there are a lot of places and spaces where you disagree and it's completely disrespectful. Like you said, you're being a bully, you're punching down. And I think if you have honor and respect and you could, I think more people right now are where a much more, even earlier, there was the cancel culture and all this stuff. Not that people aren't getting canceled, but people want to hear you disagree, but being in a respectful way. That's how I feel. I feel like people are much more like, let's get out of not being able to disagree. But let's just do it in an honoring way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think, like, so for us, like, if someone's like, well, I wonder what are some of their boundaries? So it's like, it's not all of them, but if someone comes on our show and they're new to the podcast, there's a couple guarantees I give them. I say, hey, on the show, pretty much everything's on the table for us to talk about. I'm gonna, more than likely, if you're new, I'm gonna probably end up interviewing you and just try to pull out as much juice. But I may find something that you're passionate about and try and sit on it. But I say, we don't talk about political figures.
Yeah.
So that's one of our boundaries. So in other words, like, we're okay kind of with talking about political ideas, but I don't think people's maturity level on a
For sure.
National scale are able to decipher.
Yeah, that's smart.
And so I just say, I don't think our overall maturity level in a public setting like this podcast can handle a political conversation in the sense of, you know, we're not going to talk about Trump. We're not going to talk about Biden. We're not going to. I'm not going to get people in their feelings. All of a sudden, people are commenting because they're just angry, and you know, you hit this, you hit that,
and you could, and that would be clickbait. But that's not what we're going to. That's not what we're about.
For sure, and I could do it.
For sure.
Pull me on the side. I watch political news every day.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
If you come and want to talk to me off the record, man, I know exactly what laws are in the state right now. I know who my congressman is. I'm so politically informed, but I also know what the goal of this platform is, which is to point people to Jesus. And I feel like politics, it gets in the way of Jesus.
For sure.
And so we say we don't talk about politicians, we'll talk about ideas. We don't talk about politicians and we don't talk about people, we'll talk about ideas. So it's like we don't want to, you'll see other podcasts, they're like, say they watch something and they'll be like, look at their goofy what they're wearing. But they just start punching at the person.
For sure.
And so I say, even if we play something, we're not there to talk about the individual. If it's positive, then we can do it. But if it's negative, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, and I heard they divorced their wife. So who are they to talk about marriage? Like that's off the table. We don't punch below the belt. All we do is grab their statement and we wrestle with their idea, which in philosophy and debate, that's what you do anyway. You know, a debate is lost when the guy goes, and you'll see it in political debates nowadays, when they go, coming from the guy who's had 5 wives. Well, in my head, you've already lost the fight.
For sure, because you're punching down.
You're punching down.
And you're trying to like discredit someone for their lifestyle versus...
And that may be true, but we're not here to debate that.
No, we're here to debate ideas.
Now, if there was a debate on like why someone should be a pastor, and we should be like, oh, he should be a pastor because he's had 5 wives. Okay, that's on the table.
For sure.
But anything else. So those are just some of the boundaries when we tell someone, hey, this is a guaranteer when you come on the show. We want to encourage you to talk about whatever you want. But talk about what they say, not who they are. We just take that off the table. And then they're always like, oh yeah, I could do that. That's pretty good. You know, like, because you would never want it on your receiving side. You wouldn't want someone, and we get it, like, because we go viral regularly. So I see it. People may talk about, you know, my size or whatever. And you just go, okay, well, that's a low way of putting it. Like, just talk about my idea.
For sure.
Don't disagree with what I said. You don't have to like, his shirt is stupid. You know,
for sure.
Like, okay, like,
and you're like, no, it's not.
You're so discredited. It's salmon. It's pink.
It's fire.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what you said. I was thinking about we probably saw that quote in all our English classes, right? I just pulled it up from Eleanor Roosevelt. That great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. And I think that is a good...
Yeah, that's strong.
I think we should, everyone listening, and even all of us, let us take that into like a poll in our life. Think about your last 24 hours. And what percentage of the time are you discussing ideas? What percentage are you discussing events and people? And then I think that should show us where our mindset and where we are at. And I think that's a good barometer where... just look at your life, look at your month or whatever kind of time frame, and just know that great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, small minds discuss people. Now, like we said, you could talk about people and events in the idea category, but it's very easy to stay in that people process where if all we are doing is discussing or bagging on people, that means we have a small mind. And really
you say, oh, did you hear they have a seizure? Oh, did you hear they're going through a divorce? Or did you hear their child, blah, 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 and oh, it makes sense while they're, and you limit yourself just to a person's circumstance, who they are as a person, whatever, which that's fine. That's fine in theory, but like, you got to elevate higher than that. And then events is like, hey, do you see what's going on in the government? You see that plane crash. You see Delta Airlines. And it's like...
And that's okay, because those are things we need to talk about. We're going to talk about people and events, but we want to discuss ideas, concepts about where the future is going. How do we grow? How do we reach more people? How do we change these ideas? And so to me, I think that's the beautiful thing of it, talking philosophically, where I think... There are people that have that strength for that, but we could all exercise that muscle.
Yeah, for sure.
So don't put yourself out where like, oh, I'm not an idea person. No, we all are.
Yeah.
It's just about like exercising that space.
And there's been so many times I've been in like conversations with people way smarter than me, and I say something and it is so dumb, and they look at me and they know what I said was so dumb. Yeah. And you just learn. It's like working out. It's like when you work out, you're like, I wonder if I could lift that. You try and you can't, or you try and you struggle and then you need a spotter. It's like when you're like fencing with someone philosophically and ideologically, and with our group of friends, we do it all the time.
For sure.
And we all differ on so many things.
For sure.
But it's like you have to be able to say something that, like, bro, the amount of times, Jermaine knows I love him, I'll be in a conversation with Jermaine, I'll be like, what are you reading? Like, what are you on some like 4chan forum? Like, that's not even fact. What are you know, like, and he's like, sits here and like, oh, you know, like, I'm like, give me real facts.
Right,
you know?
Right.
And then you either go, oh, well, I'm not going to talk about that again. Or you say like, no, next time I'm going to read a little bit more. Yeah. I'm going to make sure it's not just rumor.
Yep.
I'm going to make sure I didn't find it on just some random blog. You know, it's like, and so you stretch, you get better, you know? And there's other times I'll sit there and I'll be like, hey, I know nothing about that. Just tell me more.
That's what I was going to say, is that for people to grow in that, you could do your research, read books, right? Leaders are readers, readers are leaders, either way you want to say it. But then also, if I go into a room, I love talking about, you know, anything like similar with you, Jesus, whatever, people. But if someone's interested in something, I'm asking questions. If I don't know about it, I don't feel a pressure to be like, I'll tell you my thoughts. But like, if I don't know about it, I'm asking questions. So the great way to be a person that understands discussing ideas and step in that great mind category will be a great question asker.
Yeah.
Like just go into a room, and then if someone's talking about something, be like, yo, tell me more about that. Yeah. How'd you get involved in it? Open-ended questions, and really be an active listener.
Yeah.
If you're an active listener, you're wanting to learn, you want to pull out what you're saying, and then you're able to process and ask more questions, and that's a great way to learn. Yeah. So just, again, that goes back into the curiosity. Be curious. Be curious about people's life, what they're walking in, all those different things, and then you'll learn more into those categories. But
like right now I've been learning a lot about electricity. Because I had some issues in my backyard, and Phil knows this, and so it's like, you know, some people have been telling us electrically some things aren't possible, and then I meet another contractor and he's like, yeah, it is possible. And so then, you know, one of our friends in the church, he came over and for me and Ashley's gym, and he did what I needed him to do after like 4 people said it's not possible. So then now I'm like, what's the difference between 50 watts, 30 watts? What's the difference between 220, 210, and what's the difference between this, and this? And I want to say I'm an expert, but if I talk to an electrician...
But at least you know that now,
I'm learning, and he'd be here, and I'd be like, so tell me why, what are you... And he said, well, okay, I got, you know, the positive, the negative, and the ground. You know, what's missing is the ground has to do this and this and this. And then he told me, what's going to happen, though, is... if you have 3 things on at once, until I go and fix it, it's going to shut the whole system down.
It's going to
So guess what? Me and Ashley ran, you know, 3 things at once, and it shut the system down in the backyard. And so I'm like, I've been on this kick that like I've been looking at electrical plans a lot, and I have no desire to become an electrician.
But you're learning about it.
But there was a gap in my knowledge,
and now you could discuss it with someone.
I kind of got enough that I could be like, I could at least, and I could pull from a vault that makes it relatable, you know, to a person. And then I'm also have enough that I could still continue to learn. And so if I met an electrician, I'd be like, now that I know electricity, I'd be like, what, because you have to run copper to wherever to put it in and stuff. I could talk to people like, what's the longest you ever ran copper?
And they'd be like, oh man, this guy knows.
Like, because copper's really expensive.
And I used to do work with electrical too, and they would call like going through all this stuff, they call like home runs and stuff like that. So they have all these different things. So then knowing certain things. And then you said something a few podcasts ago when we were talking. You were talking about how it's not even the copper, or certain things aren't expensive. It's the outer casing of it.
It's the copper itself. Yeah. The wires are cheap. But the copper's expensive. You know, and so, but the thing that's actually valuable is the wire.
Yeah, because the wire's your electricity.
Yeah,
right.
But the thing that holds it is the most expensive. You know, and so
look at God.
We did that in a sermon too. I think
Did we? Yeah, I think so.
I think it was in a sermon. That's what we said.
It was in a sermon. Was it in a sermon?
I have no idea, but I know I did share it publicly. Yeah, which was fascinating to me.
It might have been the sermon. It might have been a sermon.
Because he said, hey, we can either. He said, you have a choice to make, because I got this little gazebo in my backyard. It came with my house, and it's like it's got like a little TV and this and that, and He says, hey, you get a decision to make. Either when we set your gym up out here, you just got to make sure when I set it up, you can never do anything over here. Because if you do it over here, you're short circuit. So he said, I'm actually going to draw the power from this area to bring it over here. He said, or I could take it from your main power, but I have to run copper from your house to the backyard.
Yeah.
And he said, that is going to be so expensive.
Yep.
And he goes, but copper's already been ran right here. You just need to share power.
Right.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to spend, he's like, I don't even have a number. I'd have to go price the copper out. He said, or do you want to just make sure you don't do both at once?
Yeah.
And you'll be good. I was like, yeah, let's just make sure we don't do both at once.
For sure.
And I was like so fascinated that copper would cost that much to go that far.
Right.
That then it took me on a research binge. And,
just one of probably 105 things you're looking at.
Yeah, that was probably a 3-hour span in a 24-hour day. On that same day,
when you do that,
learned about rhinoceroses and stuff like that.
It's such a good reset for your mind, too, to get you out from that space is to learn that. But
you learn something new, you stretch the muscle. Anyways, man, what rabbit trails we're on today.
So
Let's listen to Tiger's thing. So for context,
this one's so great.
Tiger at a very young age wants to be the best, wants to be the greatest, which we know being at the end of his career, he became the best.
100%. He's the GOAT.
So it's his first pro-am or even professional game.
I think it's his first professional tournament.
It's his first professional tournament of his life.
I believe so.
And a famous golf interviewer is interviewing him.
Yep.
Basically ask him, how you want to do today? And he's expecting Tiger to be like, oh, top 10 would be great.
Yeah, yep.
Which in golf, that is what you shoot for.
100%.
You don't shoot for top one.
Yeah,
I mean, that'd be really impossible.
If you first went into the first tournament, you want to make the cut, which is half of the players.
That's like top 50 or 40 or whatever.
It's like 65 in ties or whatever it is.
Exactly.
But you want to make the cut. He's saying Tiger has this desire, this greatness.
To be
to win. He goes, I believe I can win.
That's like a kid his freshman year of college saying, and he's a track runner, and he says, my goal by the next Olympics is to win every gold medal in every race that I run.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of like,
and people are like, you'll learn.
Yeah, you'll learn. You'll learn golf's not that easy to do what you want to do.
Not, for some people.
Exactly.
But for other people named Tiger Woods.
So this dude just wrote it off as complete arrogance on Tiger's side.
And he thought it was arrogance, but then he didn't realize that it was actually arrogance on his side.
Right.
And
to put Tiger in that way, because Tiger has prepared, practiced, all that stuff like that.
And maybe pride and being okay that what if someone else achieves greatness? Are we okay with their determination there?
Yeah.
And not for us.
And on top of that, he was black. And that's what happens when
All right, let's go. Sorry, Rooster.
Sorry, Rooster. We're good.
And a victory would be also nice.
A victory. To me, that comes off as a little cocky or brash.
Well,
when you come out here, you know what I'm saying, your first pro tournament, and you say, I can win.
I've always figured that why go to a tournament if you're not going there to try and win? As I would explain to my dad, second sucks, and third's even worse. It's just a feeling.
But on tour, that's not too bad sometimes, though.
That's not too bad, but I want to win.
You'll learn. I'm just kidding you. I'm sorry I had to say that. You'll learn.
So now the guy's listening to it like a decade later.
I have learned something. I think you're better than I thought you'd be.
Thanks.
Are you better than you thought you'd be?
This early, yes.
I love that.
Yeah, so maybe it was like 5 or 6 years later, but they're watching the clip of him first interviewing and still doesn't apologize.
No, he doesn't. He
says, "Oh, you know what? You just shocked me. You're better than I thought."
Yeah.
And I'm sure the guy has quoted even later on in life as Tiger has become the greatest of all time
100%.
in golf. But that's so. Here's what I would say, and we close it with this.
Okay.
So we did that whole pursuit of excellence and greatness. Someone may say, okay, if I'm a Christian, is it okay that I pursue that? My answer would be yes.
Yeah.
Pursue to be the best at what you do. Pursue to make an imprint. Pursue whatever you think is the highest calling of whatever you believe you want to do. Do it to your best. Here's the only difference is when you pursue something and you become the best, you become the greatest that you want to do, you now immediately have influence. The question is, how will you use that influence? And I would say the response is that as you garner attention as you garner the ability. Now, again, it's not just in fame.
Yeah.
Someone could be a great
sure.
business person that all of a sudden is coaching 12 entrepreneurs.
Yep.
What are you doing with that business? Are you with that coaching? Is it just to show them this is where I came from, this is how great you could be, or will you do something deeper with that influence? Will you give glory to God? Will you point people to Jesus? Will you make God famous through your influence, or will you completely bask in the glory, of yourself, and just get to the end and be like, I'm the greatest, but like at some point your body's going to fail you. At some point, age is going to catch up to you. At some point, so every person who's the greatest, they all have to get to a point in their life where they can no longer do what makes them great.
That's right.
And if you have spent a career just defining yourself on the pursuit of greatness and not what's afterwards, and not being able to take that into your children, the next generation, be able to make Jesus famous, because you know that who you bring into heaven, that lives eternally. They're not going to have that plaque. We're not going to be able to see tigers putter in heaven.
Right.
You know, that's for earth.
Yep. I love what you said. We have our assignments that God's called over your life, and then our calling as a son and daughter of God, if you're a believer in Jesus. But being okay to want greatness, to me, I think what I was thinking of is be okay to want greatness in every aspect of your life, but don't make whatever that is, whether it's a career, whether it's a sport, whether it's in our kids, whatever that is, don't put that as an idol above what God would have.
And don't make it your identity. Christ should be our identity. Me being a preacher, me being a pastor. I want to reach people, as many people as possible for Jesus.
Exactly.
But if that was taken away for whatever reason tomorrow,
are you okay?
I'm okay with still being loving father, loving husband, whatever influence I have.
That's it.
Using whatever way, because it's not my identity.
So strive for greatness in every area, but don't make that an identity. Don't make that idolatry. Really be okay with it's seasonal. Father time, that's a statement for in sports where it's like father time is undefeated, which means that everyone grows older. No one could stay around. The only one who's kind of battling father time right now is LeBron James, but he'll still lose. But that guy is 40 and doing some crazy stuff. But I say all that is that be okay with striving for greatness in every aspect, but then also people that have hit greatness, they have a team around them, and know that it's not just you. But then, like you said, is that know your calling, know your identity, and be okay in those aspects. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Thanks for joining us. If anyone made it this far, I'll do another shout out next time. I was recently on one of my mentor and coaches podcast, Sean Morgan. It's just came out. So if you like talking leadership specifically, me and my dad talked about our leadership transition. So all you got to do is go to anywhere you could get audio podcasts, type in type in leaders in the living room. With Sean Morgan.
It was so good. Fire. Everyone should listen to it.
Yeah, it was a fun one. Bye, everybody.
See ya.